Hi guys, welcome back to the Flix Files. My name's Roger. Well, 2025 is proving to be a bit of a pisser for movie lovers. We had the sad passing of the American filmmaker David Lynch back in January. And last Thursday, we learned of the sad passing of Gene Hackman, the actor Gene Hackman, and his wife and his dog at their home. And at the time I'm recording this video, they've not released details as to exactly what happened. But I was very sad to hear that, and it got me thinking of the movies of his that I have in my collection. And I thought, sort of in his memory, I would do a little video about him and talk about the films of his that I have. And there'll be a lot of people that will probably watch this video and be shouting at the screen saying, how can you be a fan of Gene Hackman and you don't have the French Connection, or you don't have the Poseidon Adventure? And it's true, there are a lot of his films that I should have, but I don't yet have. I'll be the first to say that. Specifically, I am thinking of the first French Connection and The Conversation are the two that are on my radar. They are on my films I intend to buy list. And it's not a very big list, but they are definitely on there. And now I'm making this video and I'm going to be talking about the films of his that I do have. I'll probably end up buying those two films over the next few days. So I do want to talk about the films of his that I have. And all of these are obviously films that I like, otherwise I wouldn't have bought them. One of them is a movie that I have already done a deep dive video on. So I will put up the link to that on the screen when I get to that particular movie. So I've pulled them off the shelf and I'll just kind of go through them alphabetically and just do a little quick chat about each one. And as I've always said whenever I do this, eventually, it seems impossible at the moment, but I'm sure I will do a deep dive on the rest of these movies as this channel matures and I go forward and keep making videos. So, as I've said previously, if there are any of these films that pique your interest and you'd want to hear what I have to say about it when I do a deep dive on that particular film, then please subscribe. And what is it they say? Ring the little bell thing, and you'll get a notification when I upload a new video, and you'll be able to watch when I talk about that particular movie. So let's get to it. I'm holding them, but I will do some B-roll footage of the boxes to just show you while I'm talking about it. So the first movie is the film Behind Enemy Lines. And Gene Hackman was sort of the secondary character to Owen Wilson. And this is a very fun little kind of low budget-ish action movie from, I think it was 2002. And this was directed by I think he's an Irish filmmaker called John Moore. And he went on to direct A Good Day to Die Hard, or AKA Die Hard 5, which is definitely a flawed movie. And if you were to rank the Die Hard films, that would probably be at the very bottom. But it does have some really cracking action set pieces in it. And the same can be said for Behind Enemy Lines. I really liked this film. Obviously I did, that's why I bought it. And it's a long time since I've seen it. But there are some terrific action scenes in this movie. And as I say, Gene Hackman only plays a secondary role in this. But as I've said about many actors, and it's very true of Gene Hackman, he's one of those actors that just lifts a movie whenever he's in it. So even though he's only in this in a supporting role, he's absolutely cracking. And certainly one of the other films of his that I have in my hand, he's only in it very briefly. But when he is in it, it's just glorious. So we'll get to that at the end. So yeah, Behind Enemy Lines. If you've not seen it and you like action movies, then I definitely give this a go. I liked it because of the character that Owen Wilson played and how he was a fighter pilot, and there's a great action sequence at the beginning where he has to eject from his jet and he ends up parachuting down into enemy territory, and then he's just kind of trying to find his way back out. So it's kind of a man against the odds, and it's a pretty good movie. I think you'll be impressed with it. The next movie is the fabulous Tony Scott underwater action thriller Crimson Tide, starring Denzel Washington and Gene Hackman. And Gene Hackman plays a submarine commander in this. And I like pretty much all of Tony Scott's movies. I was devastated when he died. But this is a cracking film. Apparently it had Quentin Tarantino very early in his career. He did some script polishing to this. And when you watch it, you can kind of guess which parts of the script he tailored. I seem to remember there's one point in the movie where Denzel Washington is having a conversation with another crew member in the submarine about the Silver Surfer and the Fantastic Four, which must have been one of Quentin Tarantino's inputs. But it's a great, great film, and there's some really good tense moments between Denzel Washington and Gene Hackman in this movie. And Gene Hackman, I always think of him along with sort of Al Pacino as being a really good actor at being angry. And when he raises his voice, he makes you sort of sit up and listen. But yeah, terrific film. I think it was 1993 that was made. I saw that at the cinema and I really loved it. The next one is called Hoosiers. This is also known in some countries as Best Shot. It's basically a basketball movie made in 1986. As I say, I have done a deep dive about this movie, so I'm not going to go into it in too much detail here, but I would really recommend you watch that video because I was really proud of that video when I did it. And I talked about this as a sports movie and how much I just love it. And it is a lovely movie, and the character that Gene Hackman plays in it is just so heartwarming, and it's a terrific film. And yeah, I'd advise you to watch my video, and hopefully at the end of that video, if you've not seen this movie, it will encourage you to go and watch it, especially if you like sports movies. But yeah, it's a terrific film, and I'm really glad that I've got it on Blu-ray. The next movie is Mississippi Burning, directed by Alan Parker. Again, Gene Hackman is the main star in this with a very young Willem Dafoe. I saw an Alan Parker movie back in the mid to late 80s called Angel Heart with Mickey Rourke, and I bloody loved it. I thought it was fantastic, to the point that I actually bought the novel that film was based on, and I've now got it on 4K. But it was that movie that kind of put Alan Parker on my radar. And this is the movie he did after Angel Heart, I believe. And I can remember, I didn't see it at the cinema, but I rented this out on videotape when it was released and just thought it was absolutely fantastic. So I was determined to get it on physical media. I had this on DVD back in the day and then upgraded it to the Blu-ray. And yeah, it's a very good film. It's set in the 60s, and it's to do with racial tensions and the Ku Klux Klan and things like that. So some very dark themes going on there. And yeah, there's some moments in this movie that are almost quite difficult to watch, but it's a very powerful film. And Gene Hackman just carries it so well. He's just brilliant in it. Next, we have a little action thriller called Narrow Margin. Gene Hackman again stars with Anne Archer. This is directed by Peter Hyams, and I have done a video about the director Peter Hyams and the films of his that I have. And this is just a really good, fun action concept. Fun as in it keeps you on the edge of your seat. I think it's Anne Archer. She is the witness to a murder. And Gene Hackman is the lawyer that's tasked with getting her to safety so she can testify. And a big part of this film takes part on a train, where they're on a train and they're trying to dodge people that are on the train that are out to kill her before she can testify. And it's just a great, great, fast-moving action film. And I think it's only about 85 minutes long. It's a very brisk film. And yeah, it's really good. Again, Gene Hackman is so lovable in this. He plays it really, really well. And again, it's possibly this and Hoosiers would be the two Gene Hackman movies that I would recommend you go and see if you're not really that familiar with his work. Next, I have a Superman box set. At the point I bought this, I didn't have any of the Superman movies on physical media. And I saw that this was available. And I thought, well, I may as well get that, and then I can kind of pick them all up in one foul swoop. And I've always been a massive fan of the original Richard Donner Superman. Superman 2 is okay. Superman 3 is pretty fun with Richard Pryor. Superman 4 is god-awful, but the one saving grace of Superman 4 is that Gene Hackman returns as Lex Luthor. And Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor in the Superman movies, in Superman, the movie Superman 2 and Superman 4, is just fantastic. He was so good at playing comedy. And his evil kind of Lex Luthor in this was definitely kind of the precursor to Dr. Evil in the Austin Powers movie. There's no doubt about that. And in my mind, when we're talking about Superman, Christopher Reeve was, is, and always will be Superman. I don't care what other actors have played him since. Christopher Reeve embodied that role to a point that he forever imprinted in my mind that he is Superman. And Gene Hackman in that first Superman movie was such a brilliant sort of baddie for Superman to go up against. And I just love his character in that movie. And I can quote many lines of Gene Hackman. Miss Tessmacher! Miss Tessmacher! And things like that. Absolutely fantastic. I love it so much. I keep thinking I might get the 4K of the first Superman movie because I understand it's terrific quality and it might be worth double dipping because I won't be getting rid of this box set. So I might add that onto my to buy list. So the next movie is possibly one of Gene Hackman's most famous roles after The French Connection. And it's Clint Eastwood's Western Unforgiven. And I saw this at the cinema. My dad, bless his heart, when he was still alive, he was a huge Clint Eastwood fan and a big fan of Westerns. And I can remember that he got very excited when he heard that Clint Eastwood was doing a new Western. Because I think previous to this, his previous Western would have been Pale Rider, which was 1985, I believe. But Unforgiven came out in the very early 90s. And Gene Hackman plays the sheriff of a small town who's a bit of an evil bastard. And he won the Best Supporting Actor for this role. And he is absolutely terrific in it. And it's just a great, great film. And as I say, I'm not going to go into much detail about it because I want to do a deep dive about this film. And as I'm getting older, I'm really getting into my Westerns. It's something that is one part of my collection that I want to expand on, is the Westerns. And certainly the James Stewart Westerns of the 50s. There's a few more of those I still want to get on physical media. But again, this is a movie, Unforgiven, that is now out on 4K. And I've often thought about upgrading it to the 4K. So if anyone's watching this, if you have this movie on 4K and you previously had it on Blu-ray, please let me know if you think it's a worthwhile upgrade, because I might be tempted to get that. And then my last movie with Gene Hackman is the absolutely lovable Young Frankenstein from Mel Brooks. And anybody that knows this movie will know straight away that Gene Hackman plays the role of a blind man that Peter Boyle's Frankenstein comes across. He comes across him in his little shack, and Gene Hackman invites him in, thinking he's a homeless beggar because he can't see him because he's blind. And there's a couple of gags there, and the way Gene Hackman plays it that's absolutely hilarious. There's one where he's serving him some food and he's giving him some soup. And as he's ladling it out, he completely misses the Frankenstein soup bowl and just pours this red hot soup into his lap.
You don't know what your visit means to me. How long I've waited for the pleasure of another human being. Sometimes in our preoccupation with worldly matters.
And then there's another sequence where after they've eaten, even though he's not actually eaten anything, he gives him a cigar. And then as he goes to light it, he ends up lighting the end of Frankenstein's thumb. And there's a brilliant sort of visual timing moment where for a second he just sits there staring at the end of his thumb on fire before he finally screams in pain.
No. Don't inhale until the tip glows.
So yeah, Gene Hackman is only in this movie for just a few minutes, but it's one of the highlights of an already great film. And yeah, it's well worth a watch, The Young Frankenstein. Even if Gene Hackman wasn't in it, Young Frankenstein is a film you've got to see if you haven't seen it and you like your comedies. There's some blazing saddles. And the fact that Gene Hackman is in it just makes it even more special. So there we are. That's my small collection of Gene Hackman movies. I've already mentioned a few others that I know I would like with him in. But if you know of other Gene Hackman movies that you think I should check out, then please let me know in the comments. And yeah, I will do my best to dig them out and watch them. So there we are. Again, very sad, but he was 95. He lived a good full life. And it's always sad when we lose movie stars of that caliber. And it's just one of the things that we all have to face as we get older. But that's my little tribute to Gene Hackman. I hope you enjoyed that. Keep an eye on my community tab on YouTube. I tend to post little updates a few days before I release a video, just to give you a preview as to what the video will be. And if you haven't already, maybe you could consider subscribing. It will really help me out. I'm fast approaching about 500 subscribers, which is fantastic. I'm just over the moon. Every time I see my subscriber count go up, even by one, I just sort of do a little, yes, it's such a great feeling. And I'm way beyond any kind of targets that I set for myself. It's absolutely fantastic. So thank you very much to each and every one of you that subscribe. It really means a lot to me. And when I get to 1,000 subscribers, oh my God, I will be so happy. I want to do something special, you know, maybe kind of a live stream or a Q&A or something. But that's a long way off yet. Let's try and hit the 500 mark first. So, right, that's enough of me waffling. Thank you once again for watching. Rest in peace, Gene Hackman. Thank you for all the great work you gave us over the years. And I will see you soon, guys. Bye for now.